I'm Mad Mike with Sharp 20 Things. Today we're going to look at some survival knives. You may remember in the 1980s there were these cheap hollow handle survival knives available in magazines for $19.95, which was $20 more than they were worth, with a compass on the end and some stuff inside. And that type of stuff is still out here. This is one. First of all, it's hard to get out of the sheath. It has a reasonably effective saw on the back, serrations here, and you have to understand, if there's a hollow handle, there's just a bolt holding the blade in. We'll take these outside later and see how much durability they have, but they don't. And it's got a very rudimentary compass that actually isn't even rotating properly. And theoretically, there's some survival supplies in here, and I'm going to need multi-tool to get them out. So we'll bring the camera in and look at what they stick in these things and discuss that, and then look at some other aspects.
All right, so we have three matches that are crumbling. These are not hurricane matches or actual survival matches. They're just basic matches. As you can see, the compass doesn't work. There's a very basic little fish hook and some fishing line, and I'm not sure what you're supposed to do with that. Unless you're a better fisherman than I am, and I've caught fish, that's very, very marginal. There's a little bit of thread and a needle. This is not really survival equipment. This is a waste of time. So if we look inside this, as I said, the blade is held on with a tiny bit of threaded tang and a nut. This thing has no strength whatsoever. It looks cute.
All right, so let's see how this thing holds up in actual use. The saw isn't terrible. We've tested others, and let's see what the strength is like. So yeah, that's not a good. Wow, the blade broke as well. Look at that. This is not a good choice for a survival knife.
So here's a slightly better quality one. We'll show this in the sheath and then out of the sheath. This one is marginally useful. We have a slingshot. We have a sharpening stone underneath the lashing cord. There's some lashing cord. We have a caping knife with a gut hook, a bottle opener. It's always important to have a bottle opener. That's the most useful thing on any of these. What works as a wrench, you can lash this to something to use it as, I guess, a minimal little spear point. Here we have the bands for the slingshot, and this is a reflective surface that you can use as a mirror. And then in here, once again, this actually has a container with survival supplies, and we'll look at this tang in a moment. But again, basic matches, fishing line, and a couple of band-aids on a striking surface for the matches. So there's really no point to putting this inside your knife. This one has a slightly stronger bolster. It's got a bolster that goes both down the blade and the tang into the grip. And there's a pin across. This one has a little more strength.
All right, so let's try this other one. It's actually got a pretty effective saw. I'm impressed. And we place it in. It's actually not breaking, but I think I've bent it. No, this one actually has held up. I am not unimpressed. Still not a great concept to have a hollow handle, but this one at least is functionally made. Now, one of the other issues with these, besides the weakness, is that the grip is completely round. There's really no way to index on this. It is just sort of going to rotate in your hand. You do not get a good grip. So, as a knife, these fail. There's a former South African maker, Chris Reeve, and his are machined out of one solid piece of metal, properly contoured for the handle, and then cut inside and have a heavy, basically machined bolt on them. So those are actually, if you're going to make something like this, what you should do. Those are expensive, they use a lot of material, but they are very tough. These are all workarounds that really don't do anything. Now, at one point, these actually were looked at by the military. So you understand what I'm about to do. So I have this idea. The knife has a hollow handle, and there's some survival supplies inside it. Why would that be necessary when there's pockets on the jumpsuit that can hold all this, and a bailout pack full of supplies? You're trying to stuff stuff into the knife is kind of redundant. Right, but this way everything is inside the knife. But again, there's a lot more than what you're putting in that knife. And there's a whole pack of bailout gear. No one's going to be running around naked with just a knife. So the primary things they would be putting in there would be amphetamines to stay awake and painkillers so they don't feel the compressed spine and the broken ankle while they get the heck out of bad guy country back to our people. And they've got fishing line so they can get food. What are they going to do with fishing line? If pararescue is doing their job, they're not on the ground more than a few hours. And if they're not, then they're going to be hiding, not fishing. You're not getting where this goes. Yeah, but it's a knife. All right, so there's a couple of other points to address here. If you just have a pouch on your knife sheath, you can put all kinds of stuff in there, like a fire striker that actually does something, a sharpening stone, and if you want all that other stuff, it will fit in here. And that way, you still have a full tang knife that works as a knife, because it's a knife. Now, I don't know what your survival matrix includes, but unless it includes Chinese hordes, or possibly aliens, and the military has different criteria. If you're in the military, Chinese hordes are part of your matrix, and given some of the recent releases from the Pentagon, possibly aliens are too. But generally, if you're lost, you want to be found. Get a knife in a bright color. If you drop that one, you may not find it. You drop this, it's a lot more likely you're going to find it. Oh, and this one came with a whistle. Whatever. But at least this works as a knife and has some kind of function. Now, a bunch of these have fishing line. Some of them even have, besides the hooks, they have sinkers. And the theory is that you can use them for fishing, you can make snares out of them, or in an emergency, you can suture yourself using the fishing line. I have a better idea. Dental floss. It's Dacron, it's strong. Dacron is what they use for making bowstrings. You can, if you know how to make a bowstring, like if you know how to fish, you can make a bowstring out of this, and with a stick, you've got something that's a little more effective at getting food than, say, cheap fishing line. You can use it for making a snare. This is much more comfortable if you have to suture yourself up than fishing line, and you can floss your teeth with it. There's all kinds of useful things that you can throw into a kit to take with you without sticking some matches and a fish hook inside the butt of your knife. So this is an actual Air Force survival kit from the 1960s. Belonged to a friend of mine, now passed away. He supplemented it, his entire flight crew did, with aluminum knuckles. They're lighter than brass knuckles, but they're still heavy enough to put a hit on someone. He was a little skinny guy, about 5'7". He did not want to get into a brawl if he could avoid it, and if so, he needed backup. This is a pen flare launcher and flares. And inside the actual survival kit, there's a bunch of stuff. All right, so inside this kit, there's a standard pocket knife in addition to the aircrew survival knife you would have had. Needles heavy enough to actually sew leather, uniform, or otherwise. This is the compass. I'm not sure if this thing still works. This thing's been 60 years. No, this compass actually still works. This is a condom. You can use condoms for carrying water. You can use them for covering your hands while handling corrosive stuff. You can use them for the things you normally use condoms for. Fella could have a pretty good weekend in Vegas with a haul like this. There's a fire starting tablet. Matches and striking surface that are sealed. More fire starting patches. Band-aids. A contents list.
This does have a minimal amount of fish hook, and it's got safety pins for fixing your uniform. So, but again, the fish hook was in case they were in an area where they were not going to be around enemy troops and were going to be stuck for a while. And that's the water purification liquid. And survival uses of the parachute: signals, first aid shelter, clothing, hunting and fishing, travel packs, miscellaneous, and sewing tips. This is stuff you might actually use, and it doesn't take up much more space, and it will fit in a pouch or a pocket, because you're not going to be running around naked.
So a lot of the supplies that were based on a time frame when you didn't have modern communications, cell phones, not even landlines in a lot of cases, and a lower population density, and you might be away from civilization for several days, run into an issue, and need to bed yourself down. Nevertheless, you want a better way of starting a fire than a couple of little stick matches. There's what's called hurricane matches that will actually stay lit under running water. You want those. On a daily basis, I carry a knife, a lighter even though I don't smoke, a multi-tool, a flashlight. I've got small kids, I have baby wipes, but you can also clean your hands. If you have a medical issue, you can clean yourself. This is useful stuff you can fit in your pockets. You don't need a knife with a hollow handle to carry this stuff. You just stick it in and go about your business. So these are a nifty, well, they're not that nifty. They're not that nifty little gimmick that were briefly bandied about as being useful, and very quickly everyone who was in the field realized they were a stupid idea. And they've managed to hang on for 60 years. Those two are brand new out of my inventory. People still buy them. If they want to buy them, I'll be happy to sell them to them. I'm not entirely sure why. So you know the drill below, like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff, so we can do more of these videos. The website is Sharp Pointy Things. It's largely custom stuff and vintage stuff. It varies from time to time, but these videos are meant to be informative. Thank you very much.